Hello, hello, my friends, and welcome to the Wake Up with Giants radio show. I am Lady Luck, and I am joined in studio by Nick, the Gentle Giant, by Laban Ditchburn, and by our special guest co-host today, Debbi Sluys. And today we're going to be talking about the power of creating a vision. Welcome, everyone.
It's good to be here.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
I love the accents. Laban just goes right into, he goes from Australian to New Zealand to Australian to Texan and next to Canadian.
Within weeks.
Within weeks.
Memphis, Tennessee, if you're doing Elvis Presley, baby. Thank you very much.
Right. It's going to be his call sign.
Goodness. It is. All right, I'm going to jump right in and ask Debbi to give us some background, give our listeners some background into what you do and how you got there.
All right, so I'll keep it really short and sweet. Yeah. So my background is in early years. So I was in childcare for 32 years, and I left in June of 2020, and I had given my notice to my not-for-profit board of directors in January 2020. So you all know what happened between January 2020 and June 2020 was the biggest surprise of this last 2 years was the announcement of COVID. And so to back up a little bit, what I had noticed in my work with my educators, with my employees, was that the challenges they were experiencing weren't necessarily from professional development, but were about personal development. So they were coming into my office with things that weren't even happening at work necessarily, but had come in from home and just about self-confidence. And that wasn't within my job description to support and coach them, but I was doing that. So I decided to start a company for that reason, but then also at the same time, my childcare was chosen. I'm in Canada. That's why we were joking about Canada. I was chosen one of 7 in our province to pilot this new way of being. And it's interesting you say Australia because it came out of New Zealand, Australia. Europe was offering this way of being with children, but Canada and the States were really far behind, like looking 15, 17 years ago. Things were very inauthentic, very, plastic. Little Tikes, sorry about Little Tikes company, but it was very, everything was make believe and we weren't using real materials and real authentic ways of being. So anyways, I got to pilot this way of being. And what happened was that my story started to get out. And just like a good storyteller becomes a public speaker, that's really how I began with public speaking. Was I was just telling my story and our new way of being. And so I needed to go get a photo done because I was literally sending them selfies for my bio. So when people would hire me, I'd send them a selfie and a short little bio. And I thought, I'm going to get something better than this. So I went to a photo studio, had professional photos done. And those first photos gave me a glimpse into what was possible with a vision. And so I looked at them and I said to my photographer, like, who is that girl? And they're like, that's you. She said, that's you. And I said, it's hard to believe because when I look in the mirror, I see a mom, a childcare director, but that woman, she's a rock star. She's going places. So I put that together with that and then the need for my employees. And I started to look and I trusted my intuition. And so from there, I started, again, I'm kind of fast forwarding here, but I started a company called Dare to Declare with vision boards. I built a studio. I have an in-person studio that I can house them. And I was doing my full-time job with childcare and the vision board workshops simultaneously. And then, as I said, I had this aha moment. Life's too short. My mom passed away. She was only 63. I had a stroke-like episode at work due to stress. And I thought, I'm 51 years old. Am I really going to wait until I'm 60 to get this started, like to jump in full time? No, I'm doing this today. And so I remember that crystallized moment. It was October 2019. And I was speaking at a women's event and I thought, I'm doing it. And I went home and I mentioned it to my husband, And he was like, okay, what? Like, I thought we had like 5 years. And so I gave my notice to the board, but then it was like, COVID, now what? So I went online and I offered a free workshop called A Power Word, Discover Your Power Word. And it's just a simple workshop. And I had 65 people register. I created 10 paying clients. I'm talking about creating a vision. I created 10 paying clients from that very first workshop. And I thought, okay, the universe is like gracing me, is bestowing me, with the affirmation that I need. I'm on the right track. And so I jumped into a coaching program. I hired a coaching company. I gave half my life savings. Never done anything never invested like that in my life before. I felt literally sick to my stomach. And but what happened was when I graduated in November, the company that I learned with actually offered me a partnership. So now out of 12,000 plus coaches in their queue, I'm their only partner. What else happened was, because I had so many of my colleagues that were in my coaching program ask me for my materials, and because they saw the impact and felt the impact that they were getting with it, I started an academy. So last year I started an academy. I now have 13 graduates. I'm starting another one in April. I've got 5 people already registered, and that's become a global impact. So it's just been extraordinary. And the icing on the cake is that the 2 biggest people around vision boards in the world, Jack Canfield, co-wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul, Gabby Bernstein, have both come into my life in the last 6 months. I got to fly to California and be interviewed by Jack Canfield in November and was just blown away. And he offered for me to write a chapter in his next book. So I'm doing that. It's coming out this spring. And next month, I'm going to be on the stage with Gabby Bernstein. And she just released a book. And so what's extraordinary is that I get to live out what I teach. Is that it's not like, oh, okay, I believe this over here, but my life doesn't demonstrate or show it. Like, I get to experience miracles, and I get to share them with my network, and I get to say, if I can do this, so can you.
That's powerful.
Bravo, Debbi. Bravo.
Yeah. And the recency of it. I mean, you're talking the last few years this has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So you went from not even being in this field at all to being invited to speak, to creating all of this. I mean, that's powerful. That's how fast it can move. I mean, what would you say around that with the vision? Did the vision create that speed, or was it your activity? Like, what was it that moved you to move that quickly, if that makes sense?
Yeah. I've just recently put my finger on it. I believe that it is a culmination of vision and intuition.
Okay.
And action. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if one of those components is missing, and I think vision and intuition are really married together. But, we can have that intuitive thought. So again, I don't know which comes first. I think probably the intuition, like you just feel this intuition, and then you create the vision, and then you create the action, and then it just cycles back again. And then you get more of that. And as you lean into that, your intuition becomes stronger. And an example of that was with Jack Canfield 4 years ago, when I just opened my doors for the first time. I flew to Boston. And again, I was just starting a company. I had invested a lot of money in the studio. I really didn't have money to be spending to be flying to places and taking part of that. But I thought, I have to be with the best. And that's been another thing too, is I've reached out to experts. I've sought out who's the best that I know, and let me get into their circle of influence. And so just, the best I could do at that point was take his 1-day course, and I sat in the audience. But that day I wrote in my workbook an affirmation, because he's big on affirmations. And I said, I will do a big Jack Canfield training, period. I had no idea how, when, what, but I knew in my intuition that this was going to happen. It wasn't if, it was a matter of when. And so I wrote that down, shut the book, and carried on with the story that I just gave you. Well, when I went to California, even just, I thought, should I put that in my suitcase and take it with me and show him? And I thought, just do it. And I'm like, yeah. So I showed him. He got such a chuckle and just got so much enjoyment. And I said, I think today qualifies as the big Jack Canfield training, wouldn't you say? He said, absolutely. He's like, get that down, and I think, I don't know, but I suspect that, that may have also led to this offer of me having a chapter in his book, in that I literally was following his principles and following my intuition.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I want to highlight 2 things for our listeners that Debbi has touched on. The first is that Debbi created a vision, And when she moved forward with that vision, she took action. She didn't just create the vision and sit back and wait for it to happen. She actually took action towards the vision that she had and that she was creating. And I think that that's an important step. Sometimes we overlook that. Sometimes we create that vision, we see it, and then we have fear or whatever happens, and we just sit back and wait for it to come to us. And the other thing I want to highlight is that when Debbi created that vision, she put it out there that it was going to happen, but she didn't write down the how, the why, the when, the where. She just put it out there that was going to happen, and the rest she just trusted. She trusted in the universe, and she allowed it to come in, no matter how it was going to come in, when it was going to come in. I mean, she didn't specify what kind of training it was, when it was, where it was. It was just that very, like almost like a blanket statement, I would call it. And it's important for our listeners to understand that when you're creating a vision and when you're putting that out there, and when you're saying that this is going to happen, and you're seeing it happen, you're not limiting yourself in it has to happen this way or this place or this time.
I think that's the power of intuition. I mean, Laban, you can maybe speak to this too, but the intuition, the way I understand it, is that we a lot of times draw from what we know. So initially our intuition is what we know, and then we gain capacity, and then we draw from that. And then there's this other intuition, which is outside of the realm of knowing. There's just this stuff that comes into your space. Laban, do you have some views on that?
Well, I'd love to share my vision creation. And I was just happened to be talking about this last night with some friends at dinner. When Anna and I moved out of Australia I moved out in October. When I was packing up the house, I found my 5-year plan that I wrote on August 13th, 2017. And in January of that year was the first time I'd ever invested in myself as well, right? I'd spent like $1,400 on a life coach based out of Mauritius, a friend of mine's mother-in-law. And she was the first person to ever talk to me about goal setting. And this is what I wrote. This is unreal. Number one, so it's due August 13th this year. Number one, have written a published autobiography. Well, I reckon that counts, eh?
I think so, yeah.
Have sold 5,000 copies. I'll know those numbers. If I haven't sold 5,000 by then, I'll bare my backside in Fifth Avenue here. Physically in the best shape of my life, 18% body fat. That's in my control. Run 5 marathons. Now I've worked out I've run the equivalent of 15. And back then, I'd never run more than 3 miles. And there's a number of other things, like be running my own business full time, drink, drug, gamble free for 6 years. Well, I'm on track for all of that stuff. And living my purpose, doing what I love. And it's not perfect. I wrote that, forgot about it, and found it last year. And look what happened. Look at what happened without even really focusing on it daily or dialing down on it. So what's going to happen when I start getting really regimented with exactly what I want, not what I don't want? And I think exactly what you're talking about, Debbi, is just the power of the thought is the initial thing, I think, that it all stems from. And then the intuition, it's like, that feels like a good idea. Let's go towards that. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Which one? Debbi, do you want to tackle that?
Well, I do think it starts with that spark. And I love that you said, like, it's like obvious and, and sort of that subconscious where it's whether it depends on who you are. Some people feel it in their gut, some people feel it in their chest, some people feel it in their head, but it's just that magical spark of possibility. The way we were when we were kids, like, yeah, let's go build a rocket ship, or let's sell lemonade at this, whatever. It's like everybody's like, yeah, right. And then nobody is the naysayer, it's just like, let's go. It's that little inner child that is like sparkly, that's intuitive thought. And then I think that the vision is more intentional in terms of creation. So it's where it takes that sparkly thought and says, okay, so now what does that actually look and feel like? And in my case, I encourage my clients to create images around that. I like how you differentiated, Laban, between what you can do and what's beyond you. And that I actually differentiate that with my process, in that I encourage people to create a vision board, not a goal board. So a goal board is something separate. So for me, a vision is something that you can't physically do, hustle, create. It's like it's beyond, and it requires divine intervention.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why what shows up is often, we were talking earlier, is bigger and better. And that's why it's different than what you even thought, like Melissa was talking about, like where it's different because it's bigger than what we can conjure up in our physical human existence and minds. So the intuition, creating the vision, and then creating the goals. But the goals actually fuel the vision.
Yeah.
So they're like little mini hits of manifestation of your vision. And then as you're accomplishing your goals, the feeling, the euphoria that you have when each of those are accomplished. And sometimes people don't take advantage of that fuel because they're just on to the next goal. But allowing that celebration to happen, acknowledging yourself, sharing it with others, that feeling, that power is actually what fuels the manifestation for the bigger vision. And sometimes people are stepping into their vision and they don't even realize, like, they're looking around and they're living this life, like you said, where like all of a sudden you're looking at this thing you created, what is it, 5-7 years ago?
5 years ago. Yeah.
This is actually my life. Like, what? This happened. And so sometimes it sneaks up on you. It's not like it just throws you a big parade and goes, ta-da, here's your manifestation. It's a series and a process of accomplished goals. And then you're going to be, celebrating in this beautiful, your best life of your vision.
I'm having some thoughts around this. So I was having a conversation today, and the gentleman I was talking to was talking about a vision board. And most people tend to put on their vision board luxury cars, luxury house, like all this big stuff, which is so far beyond their current reality. But they don't fully anchor into the emotion of that thing. They don't fully connect with it. So they want to throw it on there because that's what you do with the vision board. Do you have some thoughts around that? I mean, is that how you do it? Is there a better way to create that vision so you know what you're anchoring into? Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah. So my process, okay, so what can I say about that? I remember having a girlfriend who's also a fellow coach say to me, Deb, I thought that vision boards were about, shoes and fancy vacations. And I said, it can be. But here's the deal. I had a gentleman and he came on a call and he said, I'll never make a vision board again. And I said, oh, tell me why. He's like, because I wanted lots of money in my business. I wanted a fancy car and a big house. I said, okay, so tell me what happened. He's like, I got it all. And I was like, I'm still not following you. What happened? He said, my marriage fell apart and I lost it all. So where our focus goes, our energy flows. And so it's like you said, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you're putting on your board, because if it's all about stuff, is it the person that wins that dies with the most stuff? No, that's not what life's about. So, but we live a human existence, so we get to enjoy stuff. So stuff can feel like freedom, can feel like that sports car. It can't, like, I drive a cute little Porsche Macan. If you would have told me that I'd be driving a brand new Porsche 3 years ago, I'd say, I don't think so. But it is super cute. And I have so much fun zipping around in that thing. I love it. So it can be about those things, but it's about who are you sharing it with? How are you feeling as you're using it? How are you giving back to others? What are you learning about? So it's in all of those areas. So I see Laban's got his hand up. So I got something else to share, but I'll stop here for a minute.
Well, I just a thought came into my head as you were sharing that. What about putting on the vision board outcomes that will, by natural byproduct, create the financial resources to buy whatever you want with it? So for me, I'm well on my way to becoming known as the world's most positively influential speaker. That's my MO. And I know, but by achieving that goal, financial resource will be a thing of the past. You cannot have both of those and not have money, right? And so my intentions aren't doing it for the money. I'm doing it because I want to create the most amount of impact, and I'll be able to buy 10 Ferraris if that's what I want. So, and that way I can still not let my marriage slip or with my kids or whatever. Is that kind of the angle that you're thinking about?
Yeah, for sure. I think, so a couple of things that you said, I think it's not about the money. In fact, I discourage people from putting piles of money on their board, because I'm like, do you want to decorate your house with money? No, right? So money is the vehicle to the vision. So it's the path to that. So most people create a vision board with these 3 words in mind, and they do it in this order. What do I want to have? What do I need to do to have that stuff? And then I'm going to be happy. I flip it on its head. Who do you get to be? So that's where we start. What do you want? What's the best version of you? And then what do you get to do to be the best version of him or her? And then the abundance, like you were talking about, the Ferraris or whatever it is that you want, will show up. But the focus is really on self first, and the best version of me. So no, I love that idea of putting that out there, of being the speaker, the universal impact speaker. And for some people, like I'm thinking about a really high performing coach that I worked with. And he said, well, I'm going to write a book on my vision board. And I said, I don't think so. He said, why? I said, because even though you don't even know what you're writing about, you don't know, it hasn't even begun yet. You know that you have the resources available to you to write that book. Like it's already a done deal, so to speak. You know who to talk to, go bigger than that. So once that book is written, how is that changing the world? Are you talking about it from stages? Is it for sale at the back, in your big auditorium? Are you doing book clubs? What is that book? How is that book changing the world? But I had another client where she was in a retreat with me, just discovering, who she is. And I remember her popping her head up and she's like, Deb, I have a story within me and it needs to come out. I need to write a book. And I'm like, that goes on your vision board, because she had no idea how she was going to write this book. And she has actually, it's become a bestseller, and she's actually left her full-time career. She's now a coach. And so that all manifested.
I love the idea of this. You put something on your vision board that you don't yet know how to do. So, and you don't know how to get there. And so you put it on there because it's a creation, but the journey is really where a lot of that growth comes in, because you can build your capacity to be a steward over it when you do receive it. And the happiness is built along the journey. Usually when we get the thing, we become satiated by it. It becomes normal. And then we lose the drive for it. And it just becomes another thing. Whereas the happiness kind of tends to be this ongoing process of creating purpose. We find happiness in purpose. And so when you get to that next vision, my understanding, and maybe you can help me with this, is that you'll just create another vision, another purpose. What else do you want to accomplish? Where do you want to go? I think of Dr. Seuss, right? Yeah.
For sure. I remember one of my most senior clients was 75, and her daughter had bought her the experience, and her granddaughters, like they were going to come with the 4 of them to my studio. And I don't know how she got my phone number, but she called me up, and I was still in my other job too. And I was in the parking lot, and she says, yeah, hello, this is Lucy. I'm like, hello, who is this? And she says, I don't think this is going to work for me. I said, oh, tell me why. She's like, I'm 75 years old. If I don't know what I want by now, I'll never know. I'm like, okay. I said,
Laban, there's another accent for you, man.
She sounds like she might be from Eastern Bloc.
So, that's my best attempt at a Dutch accent. But anyway, so I said, your daughter bought this for you. Just come. And you know what? Maybe you can make a gratitude board. Everything you're grateful for. So that got her there. But, once she started, and she started to create and had fun with her daughters and her daughter and granddaughters, she says, I think I'd like to travel. This is before COVID, but I think I'd like to travel. And I said, okay, that goes on your vision board. She says, I think I like a man. And I said, well, then he needs to go on your vision board. What does he look like? What is he like? What's his characteristics? If you want somebody to travel with, very cool. And so what she realized in that moment was that at 75,
he wears a pink. Yeah, he wears a pink jacket, and he's got a bald hair, and he's got all these accents.
So she walked out with a full vision board, even though she came in thinking that there was nothing left. Right? She had accomplished everything that she wanted in her life. Like, what am I going to create as a vision for me at 75? So to answer your question, I recommend that my clients do a vision board at least every 12 to 18 months. Because if you, again, have had that dedicated focus on your vision board, you've had affirmations, it will manifest, and you're going to be at the next level and wanting to create something new and greater for your life.
Debbie,
You've got me thinking back.
I've got an outrageous thought. How would you, let's say someone came to you and said, would you please coach me on this creating a vision board? And they had been blind from birth. They had never seen anything. And how would you encourage them to visualize? Have you ever encountered this?
I've never had this question. No, but you know what I have had is I had a client who's a coach, and her adult daughter, and I had never experienced this before, but she is on both sides of the spectrum. So she has diagnosed disabilities, but she's also very, very high IQ. And so she asked if I would do a vision board with her. And so I did. And so, again, my education in terms of early years did help me with some of the different ways of thinking and being creative and how I was presenting it. But at one point, I was talking to her about images, and she said, I don't think in pictures. I said, you don't? Tell me how you think. And she said, I think in words. So I really had to think about what that looked like and how that would translate on her board. So, but the board is very much like a piece of art. Everyone is different. Every person, they get the same materials, but everybody creates something that's very unique to them. And it's based on interpretation. So I suppose whatever the person that was blind wanted to have on their board, I would imagine it would be more textile, perhaps, like maybe things from nature, something that would embody what do they want for their life. And that, actually, this is really cool. You're making me really think that I have a whole new niche here.
I want to interject here, because let's define vision first. So if vision is purely sight, then we're on a tangent. But if vision is more than sight, then it's this creation. So if it's a creation, it's beyond vision, it's beyond sight, it's beyond sound. I have an Oculus, the VR, and there's a program called Notes on Blindness, and it's a blind man's journey, and they try and visualize it for somebody that can see what it's like to be blind. And his vision is totally different because he hears it, he smells it, the sensation on the skin is there. So it wouldn't be the sensory perception of a thing, because truthfully, how can you sensorily, I'm going to make up a word, perceive that thing if it doesn't even exist yet? So it's really creating something that's not there yet. You're creating it. And so you're creating it before it's a creation. So how you would do that, probably similar for everybody, regardless of their ability to see or smell or taste or touch or anything. It would be, how do we get you in the experience of that thing as though it already is? Is that?
And my thought around that was actually having it be audio, having the things described, the things that you would have as pictures on your vision board described in great detail on audio for a blind person, because then they're seeing that vision in their mind, how they would have experienced it, how they would have heard it, how they would have smelt it, how they would have tasted it. It's being described to them in their ears. And so they can actually envision that in their head.
It goes
it's
back
got everybody silent.
Yeah, no. Well,
everyone's brain's ticking over.
Yeah. So Debbie, if we lean on that word, the operational definition of a vision, what would that be?
Well, I think it's very much like you said, it's open to interpretation.
Yeah.
But what I do is I take my experience based on over 1,000 clients that I've worked with. Now, I haven't had anyone who is physically blind come to a workshop, but I have had people at various levels in terms of blindness, as in like so many lies and beliefs and fears that they're just completely immobilized. I had a client come, and I don't know what had just happened that morning, but I asked her to do a check-in, and one of her words was angry. Like, whoa, okay, so how are we going to create a vision when you're in a state of anger? So, so clearing and making space to create a vision first. I think that's really critical, is that they can't live together. So, but I think the biggest reward was at the end of the day was that she was smiling and declaring her vision. So she'd gone from a state of anger to a state of hope and power and empowering and declaring her vision. So that was really powerful.
You really hit. There's a word that you just used there, clearing a space, right? We're not doing an addition on a home. If you were doing an addition on a home, you would knock out a wall and you would add to it, essentially. So when you're talking about a vision, this is beyond. This is like clearing this is tearing the home down. This is creating it all over.
And you're creating more ideas, Debbie. I've got an idea for you to help create another revenue stream or another value add to your clients. Why don't you NFT the vision boards, and find vision boards of really successful people, and you know what I'm talking about, and like that would be of interest to me. I don't know a lot about it, but like imagine having Jack Canfield's original vision board as an NFT, or mine in 5 years. I don't know, like. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, very cool. I think that people are definitely inspired by stories of manifestation, because looking at someone's vision board, it's not going to have the same connection to them as the designer, because that meant something to that person. But when they hear what actually has come out of that, the manifestation and how it's changed their life and transformed things, that's really powerful and very inspiring and motivating.
What about a book from each of the people with a little chapter on their story of their vision board with a photograph of I don't know, my brain's gone into.
No, I love that. Thank you. Keep it coming. So it's kind of like what Jack offered for me, right? So he is doing his chicken soup style, where he has people tell their stories, but specifically his book is about, the success principles, and he's actually having people tell their story on how they used it. So I could do a take on that for sure, on how their vision boards have manifested. And I have many of those stories. They're just amazing. And I always I call them God bumps. Like, it's just like, because it's from beyond. But I want to just go back to something you just said about not putting an addition on. And what it made me think about is the number one question I ask my clients is, what do you want? That's where it begins, is what do you want? And people think they don't know what they want. In fact, they'll say, I don't know. Like, if you think about you as adults, I don't know if you've got kids, but if for Christmas, you know what your kids want for Christmas, you probably know what your spouse wants, but they were like, what do you want for Christmas? I don't know. I got everything. I don't need anything. I don't know. Right? We don't know. What do I want? But the thing is that you do. And so when you take the time, and just like, what do you want? The vision is in you already. It's not like you have to build it in terms of create it as an addition to build a bigger, better you. It's already within you. It's just uncovering it and bringing it forward. That's what I get to do.
I like the word want. It means to be without. And so a lot of times we'll say, I don't want this. Well, that means we have it. So if you don't know what you want, what are you missing? What are you without in your life? And like you say, it's already in there. So let's draw that out. It's an uncovering of it, because it's already in there. So how do we pull that out of them? How would you do that? Can you walk us through that process a little bit of drawing that out?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I do it in a couple of ways. One is really, like I talked about, the child. So getting back into that right brain, into that creative side, because we tend to be into the logical, analytical. Well, that doesn't make sense. Law of attraction. That sounds mystical. Like, it's just like people want to make sense of things. So it's about getting into the right brain. And I do that in a physical, when I get an opportunity to be back in person with people, I set the stage with music. I use essential oils. So I very much create the environment. And so when people are doing it on their own, I encourage them as well to create a space that's uninterrupted, that they may want to play soft music. So really to fire up the right brain. And then I use an exercise, and this is something that anybody that's listening here or catches the show after can do at home with someone else, is to set a timer for 30 seconds. And just to face each other. And the first person says, what do you want? And the other person responds with a single word answer. And this person doesn't respond to that answer. They just simply ask the question again. What do you want? Answer. What do you want? Answer. Boom, 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 boom. And the thing is because it's under the gun with the 30 seconds, things pop out that you may not expect. And so then they reverse roles, they do it again. And then as a coach, I encourage them to do it one more round, and they all groan and go, what? But that's when the real magic happens, and often tears. I liken it to, have you ever had it where someone asks you, how are you? I mean, we all have that, right? How are you? Great, good. You asked me that today on the call. How are you? Awesome, great. Right? And then they pause and they look you straight in the eye. How are you? Right? And there the real feelings come out. And I think what do you want is really just sitting right underneath the chin. It's sitting in the throat. It's ready to come out. And when we give it that liberty and space to do so, that's when the real magic happens. So that's one way I pull that out. I have some other exercises as well that just give the breadcrumbs, like, to give the clues of things that you want. But you talked earlier about the meditation, and that is something that I have people do. It's about 20 minutes. I have them close their eyes and picture themselves in the best version of themselves 10 years into the future. So picture yourself 10 years into the future, and then I walk them through all various scenarios of their life. So look at yourself. Okay, so you're in a vehicle. Is it high up to the ground or is it low? Who's sitting beside you? What does it sound like in the vehicle? Is there music playing? Are you on a country road? Are you on a highway? Are you meandering? Now take a look at the outside of the car. What color is it? So again, just really getting the feel, and that's just one of the areas. And I walk through all various areas. And sometimes in that exercise, it's not about the vehicle, but they're like, oh my gosh, I'm single. I got somebody sitting beside me. I'm like, oh, what does it look like?
He's got a pink jacket on and a bald head. He's a good looking man. Every time. As you say that, I think of set and setting. There's a lot of research done nowadays on psychedelics, and that's kind of a taboo topic still. But meditation is a version of that without the psychedelics. And set and setting, you're creating that environment where they can really dive into and get into the vision state, which is what those are meant to do. And so you're creating this environment where they can see this thing before it even happens. And as soon as they can anchor in and see it, then they can start to believe it and then pursue it, have hope for its creation. And that's where I think the energy comes from. I talk to people that they don't have hope for their future, so their energy is drained. And so they don't have a vision and they don't have hope, and they feel depressed and down and out. And so creating that vision, like really sitting and creating that environment to see what's possible for you like you do, I think that's powerful, because now they get it. They anchor it in. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I think when we get into that meditative state as well, we're letting go of the conscious mind too. We're allowing our subconscious to step forward and really take over and bring up what our body really wants. And we're starting to listen to to that inner voice, whereas our conscious mind could be just glossing that over, that inner voice. And when we get into that deep meditation, it's almost like you're watching it happen. You're watching the movie of what your inner body really wants. And I had this conversation with my daughter, and it's funny. It was over a stuffed animal. She had gotten a new stuffed animal a couple of days ago, and she said, his name is Greg. I'm going to call him Greg. But for 2 days, she walked around and she kept calling him George. And she looked at me and she said, Mommy, his name is Greg, but I keep calling him George. And I said, well, then you need to listen to your body, because somewhere deep inside of you, your body is saying his name is George, not Greg. And I said, remember that feeling, and remember to listen to that inner voice inside of you anytime something's going on. Anytime you're somewhere or making a decision or anything, listen to that inner voice that's inside of you telling you it's something different. And I think it's the same thing. We have to, with meditation, we're allowed to get inside of ourselves and listen to that inner voice to make that vision, to create that vision.
See, Melissa, you say profound things and everything.
Everybody just stops.
Yeah.
Debbi, is that your updated vision board behind you on your right shoulder?
It is. Yes.
Are you able to? Because I want to ask you a question about as you've been going on this journey of creating hopefully more and more outrageous visions. What's on the vision board coming up that you can share with us?
Yeah, thank you. So I was just looking at it. Well, I look at it every night, and I was looking at the one picture I have, and in my mind's eye, Like this woman is standing at the door and she's opened the door. She's got like an iced coffee in her hand. She's got this cute little dress on. And in my mind, that is me at like at my head office. So I'm actually have a bricks and mortar Dare to Declare head office with a team, and it's supporting my academy. And, you know, I have facilitators all over the world, and we just got this dynamic, amazing vision producing business. So that's on my board, is having that bricks and mortar. And I was looking at it last night and I thought, wasn't that interesting? Because next week I've been invited to speak in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm probably going to be dressed very similar to that. And so I'm like, huh. Like, you know, sometimes it just shows up in really amazing ways that you don't see coming. And just what's been manifesting in the last little while has just come really fast and furious, as I said. So, but that's my big thing. I think it's the bricks and mortar, growing my company. Yeah. My academy.
Thank you for sharing that, by the way. Have you been experiencing more deja vus, incidentally, over the last few years since you've been focused on this vision board stuff?
Well, it's interesting to say that because my daughters, I have twin daughters, and they both just had babies within 5 weeks of each other. And they live near me. Yeah, I know. Big eyes, right? Baby town, right? But my daughter sent me a photo of my grandson and my granddaughter, and then my 2-year-old grandson. And I saw this picture and I said, oh, I've seen that picture before. Like, that is so weird. And I was like, it took over me. I'm like, so I'm frantically going through photo albums. I'm like, I know I've seen this photo. And we didn't stage it. And if you go on my Facebook, you can see it's on my Facebook page. But 27 years ago, my twin daughters and their 3-year-old brother, who's my oldest son, were almost sitting, like the picture is almost identical. Wow. Like it's freaky. If you look on my Facebook, you'll see the two pictures and they're 27 years apart, not staged, just weird. So yes. And I believe it's because I'm just so attuned to those kinds of happenings.
That's brilliant. And because the reason I ask is I have had, I'm going to say 3 or 4 deja vus in the last 4 weeks alone that are so profound that I remembered the time that I had the original thought. Because often when you have a deja vu, if you haven't had one, it's the experience of being there before. It's the French word for, I think, of been there before, right? So profound. And one of them involved Anna, my darling fiance, nearly getting run over. We were having dinner in Chandler in Arizona about a month ago, hanging out with Chris Doris. And we sat down and we were smoking cigars at his house, and I was signing books, and it hit me. And I was like I had to get up and shake the nervous. I was like, wow. And I just wonder if it ties in. It's like a reminder from the universe that we are on the right path, maybe. And maybe that vision creation is helping sort of expedite that process. That's why I was asking.
I've not ever considered deja vu as part of the vision process, or product of it. So I'm really going to dive into
it. I want to tackle it a little bit.
Please.
You know, the deja vu, the word comes, it is French. It's already seen. And vision is seen, right? See is vision. So we see it, whether it's with our eyes or something else, we see it. So deja vu is already seen. So I've seen this before. And we talked with Kathrine Lee, who went on Oprah, and she visioned herself. She called it a memory of things yet to be. And she visioned herself sitting across from Oprah, and Oprah was wearing blue. And so in the blue, she never wears blue because of TV. She just doesn't choose that as a color. But in this vision, she saw that. And when she met Oprah in person, she was wearing blue. And so she had a memory of things yet to be. We had a conversation with Lydia Nibley, who's a screenwriter, and she called it pre-membering. Like you have a pre-membering. And so when you create your vision clearly, I would imagine that you'll have memories of things yet to be as though they already are, because you have the vision so clear in your mind that when things come into your space, you recognize that's it. I need this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That's good.
I just made that all up.
I'm taking it.
Yeah, use it.
It makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So the idea of deja vu is simply you are so clear in your vision that you know when things align with it.
Mm-hmm.
You've already seen it. And so I've had that experience. You know, I look at my vision boards, they're right here above me. And I look at them daily. I wake up to them. They're in my bathroom. They're in my hallway. I've got a poster board, a picture of the movie, that things that don't exist yet. But they're visual reminders. They're always around me. But something you said in our last conversation really stuck with me, Debbie. And that was that the vision isn't what we're after. It's the emotion. And we can start feeling that now. I think of, who was it? It's The Feeling is the Secret. I don't know who wrote that book. I think we talked about that. It's not Nathaniel Branden. I'll think of the name later, obviously. But the feeling is what we're connecting with. What we're in the pursuit of is the emotion of it, because the thing will get the thing, and then that feeling will be gone, and we'll replace it with another feeling. You did this little exercise, and I'd love for you to hit that again, where you talked about the creation of a vision. Would you mind doing that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I think so.
Yeah.
So
Neville Goddard. There it is. Thanks, Ryan.
Pardon?
Oh, it was Neville Goddard. The feeling is the secret.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. So, yeah, I'd love to do that. So if everyone can just take out a piece of paper, and on it, just for fun.
I have paper, but I don't have a pen.
Okay, you'll need a pen.
I don't know that I can find one. I'll go off camera for a sec.
Okay. So, and on your paper, just to draw a diamond shape about the size of a Post-it note. She is really rummaging.
Thanks,
You
Dave.
see papers flying around the back. Like, I'm going to find this.
It's so funny. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to put touching my toes on my vision board, because that's something that I'm a long way off.
Okay, so what I would, so you asked me earlier, Laban, about, what's my big vision? Like so I want you to also think about for yourself, what's your really big vision? The one that lights you up, not the one that you think is going to happen most quickly or that is most likely to happen, but the one that you're like, when that comes to fruition, it's going to blow my socks off. So write down using 1 or 2 words to describe that big vision up here. What is that vision?
You want me to tell you?
No thanks.
Okay.
Just write it down. Then go ahead. Do you want to say something? No. Okay. Then in the middle, write down when it does come to fruition, when it manifests, how will you feel? So use 1 or 2 words to describe the feeling that you'll have. Just gonna wait till everybody's done. Laban, you're like on it.
I'm clear.
I see that.
I think Melissa's using crayons. That's why.
And they're all melted. Yeah.
I have
an origami.
I have a Sharpie that I found somewhere.
Oh, nice.
That's what I'm using.
Make sure it doesn't bleed through.
Yeah.
You'll have this vision written on your desktop.
I found my
written
daughter's
backwards.
giant book.
Awesome. Okay. So you're all good with that. Then at the bottom, I want you to write down, what is the date? Now, this is really where the rubber hits the road. When will this vision manifest? When is this vision going to come to fruition? So you might want to take out your calendar. Be as specific as possible. Put down the month, the year.
It just came to me. January 25th, 2025.
Okay,
I don't know
write
why.
that down.
It's
Write
in
that
there.
down. Okay, everybody good?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I want you to go back to the top of your diamond. I want you to scratch off your vision. It's going to feel weird. Scratch it off.
I don't like that.
I know. But what I want you to recognize is that your vision is actually the middle.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And I want you to ask yourself if you're willing to wait till January 2025 to feel that way.
God, no.
I should have made it earlier.
Isn't that powerful? That is powerful.
That's cool.
That is.
So this is your kick in the butt to say you get to get into action. You get to create the goals that accompany the vision, because the vision isn't about someday. It's not like you're creating the vision board and going, putting it out there and, you know, under your bed, behind the door, whatever. Go, someday it's going to happen. No, it's about being focused on it today, but then getting into action. So the law of attraction has the word action embedded right in it. So what even minute, small action can you take towards your goal? And those goals will then give you that feeling of accomplishment, satisfaction, love, belonging, peace, calm, whatever you wrote down. And those, as I said earlier, are the fuel that will assist you to manifest your vision. But also, you get to live your best life today, not waiting for someday.
Ryan wanted me to read out what it was, so I'll indulge him unless Debbie, there's something.
No, please do. I just didn't want you to do it during the exercise. I didn't want it to sort of like, I wanted you to have the aha.
So I wrote down enlightenment was my original top word, and then peace and joy were the middle component, and that's really what it boils down to, right? This shit is simple. Once you become consciously incompetent.
Does anyone else share?
I'll share too, because I think the funny thing is that since January of this year, I've actually been working towards that, like actively making sure the three middle things happen, which was really neat to me. So my top vision was Storytime Yoga is worldwide, the Mr. Rogers vision, right? That having the impact of Mr. Rogers and beyond. And then in the middle, I had joyful, time freedom, and impactful. And as of January this year, it really started. I was already had the joy there. I already had the impact there. I felt those things already, but the time freedom I wasn't feeling. And so at the beginning of this year, I actually found that the time freedom bit was in self-care. And I started to schedule it. I wrote a sticky note that I move from week to week in my date book that says schedule time for me. And every week I look at that sticky note and I make sure that in my schedule, there's time for me. And that allows me to feel time freedom. So I've been working on that. Yeah.
Well done. Well done. And so by being in action towards those things, you're feeling freedom of time. Is this what I hear you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely.
That's awesome. Yeah. Do you want me to go?
Yeah,
Sure.
go.
You have to now.
So now I have to. Mine is the movie. February 22nd, 2027. So 5 years from now, we launched the Johnny Appleseed tour. But my feelings, my emotions were fulfilled and excited. And man, I'm in right now. Fulfilled, like the satisfaction, that's a big thing for me, is like feeling satisfied right now. Because a lot of times I don't slow down enough to just feel it.
Mm-hmm. That's that celebration piece, Nick.
Yeah.
You stop and celebrate the hurdle and the milestone that you've reached every time.
I love it. This is cool. That is a cool exercise.
That is an amazing exercise. And I know I've heard you do that before, but it still stumped me this time. I had forgotten about it and what it was. And wow, it was incredible. I do, before we I'm looking at the time and we've been on for a while, and I want to go back to one thing that Debbie had talked about at the beginning, because every time I've talked to Debbie and every time I've heard her speak, she's talked about the importance of the vision board being actual pictures and being visual. And she touched on something earlier when she talked about the young lady that was on the spectrum and talking about how she doesn't see pictures, she sees in words. And I encountered the difference between pictures and words. A couple weeks ago, I was speaking to my mom, actually. She's a retired kindergarten teacher. And I was speaking to her, getting some tips on how to help someone in India teach some young children English. And she said to me that the first thing you do is show them big flashcards with the pictures, and you say the word and they see the pictures. But she said the second thing you do is you write out the word and you tell them that it's just a different picture for that word. so that they begin to learn the spelling, and that spelling goes with that picture. And so she said the language that you use to teach a young child that how to read and to teach them that skill is to show the written word as another picture, as another way, and to depict that thing. So if it's boy, then BOY is another picture for boy. And she said that's how the mind works. That's how you get them. So when you touched on that, I'm wondering if you can speak to us about the importance of that visual picture, and whether it's the same if we have the word written out like that, and whether we can still hold the vision in that way.
Yeah, so I think Nick probably knows more about. Last time I spoke to you, you blew my mind with what you knew around all the neuroscience and all of that. But what I know is that our brains process images 60 times more quickly than words. So if you think about an email that comes through, and especially if it's got a moving picture, where does your eye immediately go to? To the image, because you're curious versus you skip all the text. So I'm a big proponent of images and words being an accessory. So I saw earlier someone had a comment to say their vision board was mostly words. It's kind of an easier way out because it's someone else's expression. Whereas it takes an extra bit of brain power to actually locate images that represent the feeling versus it just saying, oh, it's fun to say dream or, excitement, or have something be more, it feels more superficial. So just like having the big house, the big car, whatever, it takes more effort to actually have that image. But one thing I do want to leave, and I know we're running out of time here, but if for someone who's just wanting to do this and just starting out and thinking, this feels really big, I don't know where to begin, creating a power word. So a single word. So this is something that I actually do another workshop. I'm going to be doing, I was talking about Gabby Bernstein. This is the one I'm going to be doing at that women's retreat, where you just choose one word for your year. My word is poor, not poor. No. I'm all about abundance. This is poor. Poor, lost in the accent. We're back to the accent again, right?
Poor.
So, but to have small images around it, this is something you do with your kids. This is something you can do as a family. Like what's a word that is like a beacon, something that we can hold on to, that when we have a dip in, our relationships, or we have to make a big decision as a family or a big decision as an individual, that you can go back to a single word as your vision to keep you focused. I had the word generous when I was leaving my job in January 2020. And I was very challenged during that time where I was trying to start my company. I was helping exit after 30 years. And I just kept thinking, what would my most generous self do? And it just gave me this sense of grace and direction and vision based on the single word. So I just wanted to leave that with you as well.
I just pictured a homophone. A homophone is a word that sounds like another word. So it pulls up all the words in that category. So like poor could be poor, and power and all the other things that are pretty close to it. You'll pull those up naturally with your mind. Like in sales, I'll use the word buy. When are you coming by? Because it says BUY as well. They'll pull that up in their mind. But you could play with it. I mean, words are powerful. They're anchored in. They're really expressive of what's going on inside of you too. And they can be the creation going in the other direction. So when you choose a powerful word like that, it'll anchor back in. You'll start to create yourself as that. I think that's a cool idea. Another great, Debbie, you're just full of good ideas.
She is full of,
Well, you gave me some more to think about today.
Yeah.
I love the idea of the celebrity vision boards, or going back to see other people's vision boards and the deja vu. Cool stuff.
it's like cribs, but for vision boards.
Yeah. Right.
Oh my
like
gosh, I love that so much.
You know what I'm talking about, Debbie? The
Not really. I'm like,
cribs.
no.
It was an MTV show where wealthy and celebrity people would open up their homes. You come and check out everything.
Oh, got it. Okay.
Yeah.
I must be a lot older than you guys.
Debbie,
You look great, however old you are.
Yeah. Do you have some final thoughts? One final word of wisdom, something you would share with everybody to kind of carry them forward in their visions?
Well, I would say that, again, the name of my company is Dare to Declare. So ask, believe, receive. So dare to dream. Start, again, like we talked about earlier, with that intuition to, and then to write it down, at the very least, write it down, and then to find images, but then declare it with someone that you trust. because when we actually start to use our voice and declare it, we create a vibration, and that vibration is actually the law of attraction, and we will begin to attract it to us.
I love it. I love it. Any other thoughts from you guys, Laban and Melissa?
I'm going to be throwing a copy of my book with a note inside it, wrapped in a like sealed bag, see-through, onto Joe Rogan's back lawn off a boat on Saturday. and he lives just up the road from where some friends of mine live, apparently. And
So
and
look for Laban to be arrested.
so hopefully he doesn't think it's anthrax. But like, this is something I wrote down. Get on the Joe Rogan podcast. It's like, how can I do it? And then,
I think you should leave the book on the boat and throw Laban over the fence. It'd be more impactful.
not with the rules on guns over here. You can shoot anyone. It's a real thing. Thing.
Amazing. Melissa, any other thoughts?
No, I don't actually. I feel very complete and you know, I love where we ended off, so I'm good.
Beautiful. Yeah, to those that are watching, thank you. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for spreading the message. Thank you for being giant. Thank you for holding visions, for all you do. Like this, we have a phenomenal community. So we're grateful for each of you. So make it a giant evening. We'll see you in the next video.
Bye-bye.